After a long 6-hour red-eye flight, she was tired but full of excitement. She hadn't seen her fiancé in weeks, and they had been counting down the days to be together again. She stood outside the airport with her suitcase, eyes searching the road for his car. He was late, but she didn't worry at first. Maybe traffic or parking was slowing him down. But when his car finally arrived, her heart sank. He waved like everything was fine. But then she saw the passenger seat. Sitting there, smiling like she belonged, was his ex-girlfriend. Her breath caught in her chest. The ex didn't even look surprised to see her. She gave a little wave, casual and confident, like nothing was wrong. She just stood there, frozen, unsure whether to get in or walk away. Then he motioned for her to sit in the back, like she was the outsider. She got into the car quietly. No hug, no kiss, no warm greeting, just silence and the sound of the radio. They laughed together about something she didn't understand, a private joke. The air was thick with the scent of perfume, familiar and strong. It was the same one the ex used to wear. Trying to stay calm, she asked, "Why is she here?" He answered like it was nothing. She needed a ride, he said, but nothing about it felt casual. She looked down and saw the signs. The ex's purse in the back, a phone charger, a gym bag, and a Starbucks cup with her name on it. They had been together longer than just a quick pickup. The rest of the drive was silent. She sat there watching them from the back seat, her heart breaking. This wasn't the reunion she imagined. No happy welcome, no feeling of home, just cold distance and fake smiles in the front seat. When they reached his place, she didn't even step inside. She picked up her luggage, said she needed air, and called an Uber. He didn't follow her. He didn't fight for her. As the Uber pulled away, she stared out the window, tears in her eyes. Deep down, she knew this wasn't some small mistake. This was the start of something much worse. She had spent the whole week packing her little apartment. Every box, every suitcase, every goodbye to her neighbors meant something big was coming. After one long year of doing long distance, she was finally going to move in with her fiancé. They had made plans, talked about furniture, cooking meals together, even which side of the bed would be hers. She believed they were starting a real life together. That night was supposed to be the beginning of everything. At the airport, she was tired but excited. She had imagined him waiting with flowers or at least a big hug. But instead, when he finally showed up, he was late. And when the car pulled up, what she saw made her chest tighten. His ex-girlfriend was sitting in the front seat, laughing at something on his phone like it was completely normal, like she still belonged there. She got into the back seat, feeling more like a stranger than a fiancé. The air in the car was thick with a sweet perfume that wasn't hers. It made her feel sick. The two of them kept talking, sharing jokes, barely noticing her. She looked down and saw a Starbucks cup in the center console. It had the ex's name written clearly on the side. It wasn't old either. It still had ice in it. Her eyes scanned the rest of the car. A charger, a hair tie, and a gym bag sat in the back seat. None of it was hers. All of it screamed that the ex had been there before, maybe even for a while. This wasn't just a quick ride to the airport. Something was very wrong. She stayed quiet during the drive, trying to keep herself together. Every minute felt longer. She thought about the boxes back at her old place, now empty. She had left everything behind for this man. Now here she was, in the back seat of his car, watching him smile at someone else. When they arrived at his apartment, she didn't get out right away. She waited. She wanted him to say something, to explain, to show her that all of this wasn't what it looked like. But he didn't. He just grabbed one of her suitcases and opened the trunk like this was normal. She stepped out, then stopped. She looked at the building they were supposed to live in together and felt her heart break. Everything she had been looking forward to, everything she trusted, gone in just one ride from the airport. She told him she needed to think, that she'd find somewhere else to stay that night. He looked surprised, but not worried. That hurt the most. She turned and walked away, pulling her suitcase behind her. That night, instead of moving in with him, she booked a hotel and sat on the bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how everything fell apart so fast. She sat in the back seat trying to stay calm, but her heart was beating fast. The car was quiet, except for the sound of the engine and the light music playing from his phone. His ex-girlfriend was still in the front seat, smiling like everything was fine, but nothing about this felt fine. After a few minutes, she leaned forward and asked, "Why is she here?" Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking. He glanced at her in the mirror and said, "It's nothing. She just needed a ride." He said it like it was no big deal, like anyone would do the same. The ex didn't even turn around. She sat back, trying to believe him, trying to tell herself maybe it really was just a quick ride. But then her eyes fell on something behind the passenger seat. It was a small purse, half open. She knew it wasn't hers. Next to it was a phone charger and a lip gloss. She looked closer. The charger was still plugged in, like someone had just used it. The lip gloss was a brand she had seen the ex use before. Her eyes moved to the floor. A gym bag sat there, the zipper halfway open. Inside, she saw a water bottle and a change of clothes. It didn't look like something someone had just brought for a short ride. It looked like someone who had been staying a while. She said nothing for a few seconds. Her throat felt tight. Finally, she spoke again. "You said it was just a ride, but her stuff is all over your car. That's not just a ride." He sighed, annoyed now. "She left a few things. It's not a big deal. Don't make this into something it's not." But she already knew. She wasn't stupid. She knew what it meant when someone's things were in the car like that. She knew what it meant when someone laughed with your fiancé like they still had something between them. Her chest hurt. She didn't want to cry in front of them. So she reached for the door handle and said, "I'm getting out." He looked surprised. "Come on, don't be like that. I said it's nothing." But she was already out of the car. She opened the trunk and pulled her suitcase out. The ex just watched, saying nothing. He followed her out, asking her to get back in, but she shook her head. She pulled out her phone and called for an Uber. As she waited on the sidewalk with her luggage by her side, she felt cold, alone, and angry. He stood a few feet away, saying something she didn't even hear anymore. When the car arrived, she got in without another word. As it drove off, she didn't look back. She knew she couldn't believe anything he said now. This wasn't just a ride, and she was done pretending it was. She sat on the edge of the hotel bed, her suitcase still zipped shut. She had planned to unpack at his place, settle into their new life together. Instead, she was alone in a small hotel room, heart heavy and head full of questions. Something didn't feel right. The way he acted, the way his ex looked so comfortable around him, the way he didn't even seem surprised when she left. She picked up her phone and opened Instagram. At first, she didn't know what she was looking for. Maybe proof that she was wrong. Maybe something that would make her feel crazy for doubting him. But what she found only made everything worse. She started with his profile. Nothing strange, the usual posts, a few work photos, a recent selfie. But then she checked his tagged photos. That's when her stomach dropped. There she was, his ex, tagging him in stories and pictures from weeks ago. One photo showed them sitting at a cafe together, smiling. The caption read, "Throwback to the best day." It was dated just last week. She remembered that day. They had FaceTimed for hours. He said he was home, busy with work. But now, seeing the photo, she realized he had lied. He wasn't home. He was out with his ex. He had looked her in the eyes through a screen and lied without blinking. She kept scrolling, opening every tag, every comment. A video clip showed them walking through a park. Another one showed them in his car, her laughing with her feet on the dashboard. It was too familiar, too recent, and too painful. Her hands shook as she opened the DMS. She didn't message anyone. She just stared at their old conversations, trying to remember the version of him she had believed in, the one who said he missed her every night, the one who talked about their future like it was certain. Tears filled her eyes, not just from sadness, but from anger. He didn't just lie. He made her build a life around that lie. She had packed everything, left her home, and crossed the country for him. But now, she wasn't even sure who he really was. She closed the app and looked at her unopened bags. She didn't feel like unpacking anymore. She wasn't sure she even belonged here. The phone number was still saved under a name she hadn't thought about in a long time. She found it while going through an old contact list. Not even sure why she was looking, only that something didn't sit right. Her chest was tight, her hands cold. Before she could talk herself out of it, she hit call. It rang twice. "Finally," the voice said. Calm, not confused, not surprised. That one word made her stomach drop. "What do you mean?" she asked carefully. "I figured you'd call sooner or later," the woman replied. "I've been waiting for this." Her voice was steady, almost too steady. "Are you two seeing each other again?" "Yes," the other woman said simply. "He told me things with you ended, that you moved away and stopped talking to him. We've been spending time together for a few weeks now." Her heart sank. He had been calling her every night, making plans, telling her how excited he was for their future. Now, suddenly, she was the one who'd disappeared. She forced the next question out. "Did he ever tell you we were engaged?" Silence stretched on the line. Then, the voice changed, softer. "Number. He didn't say anything about that. He told me you were just someone he dated a while ago. Nothing serious." She gripped the phone tighter, trying to stay calm. Nothing serious. He had given her a ring, promised a life together. She had left everything to be with him. "I'm really sorry," the woman added. "If I had known about you, I wouldn't have said yes to anything. He didn't tell me the truth either." That was the part that hurt most. Not just the cheating, but being hidden, like she never mattered. The call ended quietly. No raised voices, no insults. Just two women, both misled by the same person, sitting on opposite ends of a line with nothing left to say. She put the phone down slowly. Her chest felt heavy, but something inside her had settled. The questions that had haunted her for days were now answered. Not the way she wanted, but at least now she knew. She arrived at his doorstep without warning. Her hands were clenched, pulse racing. He opened the door like nothing was wrong, a small smile on his face, as if they hadn't just shattered everything between them. She stepped inside without speaking, the tension thick in the air. He closed the door slowly, still pretending everything was fine. "I talked to her," she said flatly. "I know everything." He raised an eyebrow, shrugged. "Talk to who?" "Your ex," she snapped. "The one you've been seeing behind my back." He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck like he was tired of the conversation already. "You're being dramatic." Her eyes widened. "Excuse me?" "You always overthink things," he said, walking into the kitchen like she hadn't just accused him of cheating. "I gave her a ride, that's it. You're making this into a thing it's not." She followed, her voice sharp. "She thought you were back together. She didn't even know we were engaged." He didn't answer right away. Then he leaned against the counter and said, "Maybe that's because I've had second thoughts for a while." Those words hit harder than any lie. "Second thoughts?" He looked her dead in the eye. "Yeah, I've been thinking maybe this isn't what I want. You're always emotional, always making a big deal out of little things." She took a step back, stunned. "So now this is my fault? You need to grow up," he said coldly. "Not everything's about you." Her voice cracked. "I gave up everything for us. I moved here for you. And maybe that was a mistake," he replied, arms crossed. The weight of his words settled over her like a storm cloud. It wasn't just betrayal, it was blame. He wanted her to carry it, to question herself instead of him. She looked around the apartment that was supposed to be their home. It didn't feel like hers anymore. It never really had. She walked out without another word. Not because she had nothing to say, because he wouldn't have heard it anyway. Her phone trembled slightly in her hand as she typed the message. She hadn't spoken to his mother in weeks, but the woman had always treated her with warmth and kindness. She wasn't just his parent. She had become part of the life she was building. The text was short. "Can I come by? I need to talk." The reply came quickly. "Of course, sweetheart. Doors open." The drive over was quiet, but her head was filled with everything she had learned. Her stomach turned, unsure of what she'd say or how it would land. She wasn't there to cause problems, but the truth had to come out. When she arrived, his mum hugged her tightly, surprised but happy to see her. "I thought you were settling in with him this week," she said cheerfully, leading her to the kitchen table. The familiar smell of fresh coffee and baked goods filled the room, making everything feel too normal for the weight of what she was about to say. "I thought so too," she replied gently, sitting down. Her voice was calm but heavy, but something happened. The mother sat beside her, concerned now. "Is everything okay?" She paused for a breath. "Did you know he's been spending time with his ex?" His mom's expression changed. Confusion first, then something closer to disbelief. "What do you mean? I thought he was done with her." She shook her head. "I found out he's been seeing her for weeks. She thought they were starting over. She didn't even know he was engaged." There was silence, long and deep. Then the mother whispered, "He didn't tell me any of this." She nodded. "I didn't know who else to talk to. I just thought you should hear it from me." The mother looked down at her hands. "I always told him he had something rare with you. I didn't raise him to lie like this." There was a different kind of pain in her voice. Not surprise, disappointment. She stood up slowly, walking to the window, staring out without speaking for a few seconds. "He's not going to get away with this," she finally said. Her tone was quiet but firm. "Thank you for telling me. I'll take care of it." The visit ended with a long, silent hug. No promises were made, no revenge planned, but something had shifted. The truth had reached someone who mattered, someone who wasn't going to stay quiet. He sent her a message saying he wanted to clear the air, claimed he owed both of them honesty. Against her better judgment, she agreed to meet. Curiosity mixed with frustration, she needed to hear what excuse he'd come up with next. The restaurant was quiet, almost too calm. He was already there, seated between them like a host at a strange dinner party. His ex sat stiffly, arms crossed, clearly unsure why they were both invited. He tried to make small talk. Neither woman responded. Finally, he cleared his throat. "I know things got confusing," he began, acting like this was some mild misunderstanding. "But I've made up my mind now. I know what I want." She folded her arms, unimpressed. "Do you?" Before either woman could ask another question, he stood, reached into his coat pocket, and then he dropped to one knee. Right there, in front of both of them, a small velvet box appeared in his hand. "I messed up," he said, looking up at her. "But this proves I'm serious." Her breath caught, not from shock, but from second-hand embarrassment. His ex let out a disbelieving laugh. "Is this a joke?" she asked, staring at him like he'd lost his mind. He stayed on one knee, smiling like this was some romantic gesture. "I want to make things right." She blinked, completely stunned, not because she believed him, but because he really thought this would fix everything. After the lies, the secrecy, the betrayal. This? She stepped back and laughed, loud and clear, not bitter, just done. "You must be kidding," she said, shaking her head. "You think this is love?" The other woman stood too, not even waiting for an answer. He stayed frozen, still holding the ring like it meant something. Her laughter faded as she grabbed her bag. "You don't deserve either of us," she said, turning toward the door. "And you definitely don't deserve another chance." With that, she walked away. No more questions, no more talks. Just the sound of her heels on the floor and the quiet behind her, as both women left him exactly where he belonged, alone. The ring sat on her dresser, untouched for days. It had once meant everything: hope, a new beginning, trust. Now it was just metal and stone, attached to a promise already broken. She stared at it one last time, then slipped it into a box and left for the nearest jeweler. The offer came quickly. She accepted without blinking. She didn't cry, didn't hesitate. That money wasn't for mourning, it was for movement. First, she bought a plane ticket, somewhere quiet, somewhere far. A destination chosen not for escape, but clarity. With the rest, she upgraded her phone, got a new laptop and sat down to work. Everything he thought was hidden, she still had it all. Old chats, shared calendars, call logs, voice messages, a carefully dated photo album of every excuse he ever gave. His timelines didn't add up, but hers did. She opened a blank document and wrote down everything. When he lied, who he was with, what he said to each woman. She attached screenshots, arranged events by date, even added proof of the engagement, photos of the proposal, the moving plans, saved emails. Once it was organized, she uploaded it all anonymously. No name, no location, just truth. And people paid attention. Strangers began sharing it. Comments flooded in. Some recognized him. Some had their own stories. The post traveled faster than she expected. It didn't take long before it reached someone close to him. One afternoon, she received a message from an unknown number. "Did you post about his name?" She paused. Then the second text came. "I'm his co-worker. Our manager just saw it." Then another. "I'm his date from last week. Thank you." She didn't reply. She didn't need to. Back home, he scrambled, took down his social media, blocked accounts, tried to delete old pictures, but it was too late. Screenshots had been saved, reposted, passed around. The lies had caught up. He lost more than his reputation. His boss had seen his behavior. So had clients. So had the people he had hoped to fool. She didn't watch it all unfold with bitterness, just calm. The ocean outside her window was quiet, the sun warm on her skin. She closed her laptop, sipped her coffee, and took a breath that felt free. The ring was gone, but what she gained was better. Her peace, finally untouched by him. She hadn't spoken his name in weeks, but somehow everyone knew what he'd done. Her post, which started as a quiet way to speak her truth, exploded overnight. Comments came in from people she didn't know, across different cities and even countries. Threads grew longer by the hour. No edits, no responses, just the truth. And people read every word. His image, once polished and convincing, quickly unraveled. Acquaintances unfollowed. Invitations disappeared. People began distancing themselves without a word. Clients withdrew. A project he was proud of lost funding after someone forwarded the post to his boss. The same charm he once used to impress now disgusted anyone who read what he'd done. She didn't celebrate public. No need to explain herself further. Instead, she cleaned up her phone, erased old messages, cleared voicemails, changed contact names to blank spaces. Then, she muted notifications and spent her days hiking, cooking, dancing barefoot in her kitchen. Peace didn't need to be loud. Friends checked in, but she kept her replies short, not out of coldness, but because she was learning how to be quiet again, without confusion or second-guessing. She found herself smiling more, sleeping deeper, letting go without permission. Late one night, her screen lit up. The message came from someone she didn't recognize. "You don't know me, but I'm grateful. I nearly got caught in it too. What you shared opened my eyes." A pause. Then another message. "You saved me from making the same mistake." She stared at the words, not because she needed validation, but because it meant something she hadn't expected. Her experience had actually helped someone else. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was protection, a warning, a boundary drawn not just for herself, but for every woman who might have followed. She didn't reply. She didn't need to, but she smiled. Outside, the moon hung quietly above the city. Inside, she poured tea and wrapped herself in a blanket that smelled like lavender, not his cologne. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was healing. She knew there'd be more days ahead. New conversations, fresh starts, unfamiliar hands to hold. But whatever came next would begin from truth, not illusion. He was a chapter, one she didn't need to reread. And for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like she had something to prove. She had already won. Do you think she did the right thing by walking away and exposing everything? Or should she have handled it more privately? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. And if you're into stories where justice hits hard and the truth always comes out, make sure to subscribe and tap that notification bell so you never miss an update.